All right. We are live with another episode of Business Ventures Podcast. And today I've got an amazing guest, Jasin Quimby. And Jasin Quimby he's got a background in business. So you may not know it because he's been so ingrained into the roofing and restoration industry for years. But this wasn't even his first business. This wasn't even his first industry. He was very successful in previous industries like hospitality and general construction, and he's just found his way to us like so many people may have out there. So I'm honored and privileged to have you on the show, Jasin. Thanks for joining us, man.
I'm very excited to be here, to be honest. I love the concept and model of what you're doing,
Yeah, thanks,
for
man.
sure.
It's just a little bit different, right? There's so many people out there that want to be entrepreneurs or are entrepreneurs that want to go off on a limb and go off on their own, and how do they do that? And everybody's got a different story. Like I've
Yeah.
talked to, this is my 5th episode, and I've talked to so many different people, and there's a lot of things that are very similar in people's story, but again, there's a lot of differences, and people relate to different people and different things and have different things going on in their lives. So, the goal of this podcast is for the people watching this that either want to go start a business or improve and scale their business. It's getting that advice, finding somebody that you can relate with, and seeing and hearing their journey. So, with that, let's roll into your journey. So,
Let's
who
let's
is
go.
Jasin Quimby? Where did Jasin Quimby grow up? Tell me about those Florida days, right?
Okay.
I believe it's Florida. So,
Yeah.
yep. Tell us about the early
Yeah.
life.
Early life, Central Florida, right between Daytona Beach and Orlando. I got to be honest, I was lucky. I grew up in a very diverse, um, middle down the road, Main Street America. So it was really cool, as a kid back growing up in the 80s, everybody rode their bicycles around everywhere and nobody was rich. Everybody was basically poor and middle class, but we didn't know that. So yeah, I was lucky to grow up in pretty much Main Street America for sure. So,
I love that. So it's small town. I mean, people think of Florida. I think of Florida. I don't think of small middle class. I think of wealthy and crowded and old people driving. But speaking of
it's
old people,
true.
you're pretty old yourself. So this was a long
I'm
time
getting
ago, right?
it was a long time. Yeah, this was back in the 80s before you were born.
Back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
what do you think there's anything in those values and in growing up that you think made you either want to be an entrepreneur or help you become an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. I believe it absolutely shaped and conditioned who I became by default. It was not something I'd like to say I had a choice in, but it was just ingrained in me. You get out what you put in since I was little. I think I started my first business when I was 11 years old. When I tell you I grew
Wow.
up poor, it's not an expression to sound cool. It was if the church didn't give us food, I don't know how we were going to eat. If we didn't have electricity, we just shrugged our shoulders. No gas to take hot water baths. It was really poor. But again, we were surrounded by other people, so it was kind of normal. Like there was a lot of times we just felt like normal kids, not as poor as it when we think back. Like, well, yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
have electricity. That's not a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what
So
you do?
you always have it. So it was absolutely part of my conditioning. I'll give you an example. I I don't know. I'm just gonna make up a date. 1985, 88, might have been 88. I had this idea to start a lawn mowing business. I might have been 11 years old. And I had no money. I got to borrow my parents' push mower. And so I thought to myself, how am I going to start a business with no money? I mean, no money for gas. So my first client, I knocked on their house. And again, back in the 80s, nobody cared that you would just explore the neighborhood with a lawnmower and a gas can that was empty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I went and go knocked on my friends' parents' house, that at least I knew who they were, and say, "Hey, I will mow your yard for $2." And they're like, "Okay." And I'm like, "But I need $1 to get gas money to mow it." And so obviously back in the day, gas was around 95 cents a gallon, 93, 95 cents a gallon. And at that point, um, so I could mow this one yard, and then I had money and then resources to start finding more clients. And then probably around 13 years old, I had a little lawn maintenance business, and I would wash their cars in a combo package, and I kept those accounts for years.
That's
So
awesome, man.
it was just one of those. My parents didn't have money to buy us name brand clothes. In fact, I'll tell you, growing up, I got made fun of because I was wearing Kmart blue light specials, or my mom would make my clothes. Except I didn't know any difference. They were new to me, and then I didn't even know what
Yeah.
brand name meant. I'm like, kids like, oh, he's got Nikes, and I'm like, okay, mine are new too, and I just didn't know there was a difference from a social
Wow.
perspective. But yeah, so if I wanted something, I had to go buy it myself. So by 13 years old, I had a pretty consistent little entrepreneur business as a kid because I didn't have no other choice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there you go. You're young, you're independent, and you're not going to take it. You're not going to sit down and beg for all of these things. You're going to go out and you're going to achieve it. And I think that alone is something that entrepreneurs have to have. That ability to get off your feet, get off your ass, and go earn it instead of waiting for somebody to bring something to you. That to me is the biggest difference so far that's happened. Another thing about that is, where are those kids nowadays? Like, why are they not around anymore? Why don't we have, uh, kids, teenagers, stuff like that trying to go earn a buck? Like, you still have poor people. Poor people didn't go away. Poverty didn't go away. Nice things that people wanna buy, that didn't go away. So, like, one thing that helped make you successful was becoming an entrepreneur at a very young age. We don't have 11, 12, 13-year-olds watch this podcast. I surely hope we don't. But we have people that have children, and I have children. I'm raising children. So one thing that I plan on doing with my children is not letting them sit and ask for things. Like,
Yep.
you want that toy at the store? Go mow the neighbor's lawn. A good friend of ours told us that story about how his son goes and takes neighbor's trash to the curb. Like something little like that.
Hmm.
We were telling a story. I don't know if you remember this, but we were at dinner and I was talking about a time when I was really stressed out and really anxious. And the most stressed out and the most anxious feeling and noise to me is the garbage truck driving down the street knowing that you forgot to bring the garbage to the
Yeah,
corner.
I know that feeling. That's so
Like,
funny
there's
you say
nothing
that
worse.
because you'll never forget that emotion, the anxiety behind, like, oh
Yeah.
crap. That's great. I
And
appreciate you
because
mentioning
of
that.
that emotion and that anxiety, I would love to pay a kid to do that for me every single week. I'm traveling. My
Yep.
wife is busy. She's a stay-at-home mom with the kids. Sometimes, like,
Yeah.
that might get forgotten. Luckily, at the house I live at now, it goes later in the day. So even if I forget it, I'm not going to miss it because I wake up early. But it's a problem and there's a solution. And it doesn't take a teenager more than a few minutes to do that. And then you start again developing more accounts and then making money and you become that independence and you realize the basic principles of running a business. And that's something that sticks with you for life. So in those principles, you mentioned something that we talk about a lot is account. So you were already treating those as an account. Is that like something you look back in hindsight that you were treating it as an account, or at that young age did you have it in your head that like I'm going to service these people?
No one's ever thought about framing that before that way. No, I did not consider it an account. I considered it in my community, my neighbors, people I went to church with, people I was in Boy Scouts with. And it was really more of a principle. If I made a promise, I promised to do this job for this much money. And not to break that promise probably was more an incentive than looking at it as a client, if that makes sense. These are, the people
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
live next to. So,
So
I
you
mean,
did this from 11 to 13. I know you were a wrestler growing up because you like to talk about that a lot. You look like a wrestler. Did that impact your business, or did you shut it down, or did you go into other business ventures? So what happened to this business? Why did it stop at 13?
so in 13, I was introduced to the females. I found out girls were a distraction. So then I
There you
started
go.
cutting corners. I got more involved in Boy Scouts. I got more involved in my church. So some of my priorities shifted around that age versus buying, toys and watches and shoes. So I know around that time when puberty hits you in the face, your priorities also shift. So I was, oh my, there was times I was going to church 3 days a week since I was a little tiny kid. So it wasn't
Wow.
something new to us. We were just always involved. I could walk to church. It was that close for us. So I could say for sure that was an influence. You got exposed to other kids your age in puberty, where you have your hormones, flowing, and your curiosity's out there. And obviously, when you're 13, you look at
There's
the things.
girls at church. You're not talking about the
Oh,
priest that you're
100%.
going
Oh,
to mess around
oh
with
yeah.
or
I
anything.
could I could tell you stories I shouldn't tell you about things that can happen at
Okay,
church.
okay. That was a Catholic joke. I don't know if you caught that one, but yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It was a
geez.
good old Southern Baptist church.
There
So,
you go, there you go.
which if anybody tells you about Baptist stereotypes, I'm going to say most of them are true. So,
There you go.
but you don't know what you don't know. But yeah, I would say it shifted into more adult orientated uh, uh, driving factors. Like my dad was a mechanic, so I wanted to sort of be a mechanic at the time. So I grew up fixing cars, working at the junkyard. So by 15, I bought my first car.
Oh,
So
wow.
we fixed it up, bought it, did everything else. So I had different motivations in that transition period of the lawn maintenance business. And it kind of weaned out. I wanted to raise my prices, and they were also like, nah, we're just going to keep this. And then I would have less interest to go work all weekend to make six, $7, $8 a day net. So it was
Yeah.
one of those like, well, I could do this. And then we were in that stage where BMX bicycles were a big deal. So we were getting those, polishing them up, painting them, fixing them, and flipping them. So there was
There you
better
go.
ROI for our time. So, and then it was a demand because not everybody, again, nobody could afford new bikes. So if you had one that looked new and it had a good brand name on it, it was worth gold. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it was definitely a transitional period there for sure. And I got
So
my
so you
first
went
job.
from, like, one main business to multiple different hustles
Yeah,
and
yeah,
multiple distractions, which I dig into this because, general principles are all the same when it comes to business. Business principles are universal. And for people, it's hard to understand. As the business becomes more complex, it muddies the water in how to explain the difference between sales, production, implementation, collections, relationships, things like that. But with the very simple business, like a lawn mowing business or like a kid growing up having multiple businesses or multiple different things tugging at him, when it simplifies that easy, it's really a lot easier to explain and understand, and it could help people understand and look at their business that is a lot more complex in that same way to find those solutions. That's why I dig into that, right? Because I think that means a lot. So growing up, you're doing all these different things. I know you ended up getting into the restaurant business at some point in time.
yep.
I know you had a son at a young age. Like how did this stuff factor in? When did that happen? Clearly, you're chasing the ladies left and right, so that's how that happened, right? I know how that works.
So it all happened so fast. About 15 years old. At
You
15,
got
I
that
got a job.
car. That's what it was.
No,
You got
no.
that car.
So I've got a fancy little bicycle, and I got my job washing dishes at a seafood restaurant. I don't know, 2 miles down the road from my house, and I couldn't have been happier. I made 4.25 an hour, and I felt so independent. I felt like a man. I'm 15. I'm making my own money and going to school, and at this time, so it was just building like a reserve of cash while taking care of my own personal needs. So then at 15 years old, my baby mama got pregnant. So I'm 15, she was 18.
Oh,
So
wow. There you go.
she
I'd
took
high five
advantage
you.
of she took advantage of little of me. And yeah, so I had a baby on the way at 15 years old
Wow.
while in high school, don't even have a car yet. So when we had my first child, I was 16. So at 16, now I've got a full-time job while going to high school and wrestling practice and taking care of my
Wow.
kid. So
That's
it was a
intense.
different kind of emotional condition to tell a kid you have to take care of a kid. So it also was probably one of the coolest things I got to experience emotionally and from a mature standpoint. When people complain about having stresses, it's kind of like, wow, that's really stressful to you. Imagine being a kid, taking care of a kid, working 40 plus hours a week till 2 in the morning, falling asleep, driving to school so you can get your wrestling scholarship lined up at a later date. and it was just a 7-day a week constant work grind. But I was accountable for another person's life and my own life and my
Yeah.
future. So at 16, it was full steam ahead. I put in more hours than some adults. So at this time, I'm just like, well, if these adults can do it, I can do it. And it just kind
Wow.
of, I never let my foot off the gas pretty much since I was 16. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. When you go through tough things in life, it makes you better. So it just makes
Yeah.
sense that you went through this hardship. I wouldn't say tough thing; it's a beautiful thing. You've got a son and a grandson now, and then more babies on the way. But the biggest thing is that you went through that, you learned from that, and how did you react to it? Again, you could have done the same thing that other people like to do. Sit on your ass, wait for food stamps, wait for help, or even turn away and say, "The baby don't look like me," or try to deny it or influence the thing, but you stepped up, you became a man at a very young age, and you cared for your son. Um, so what was the next chapter after that? You mentioned wrestling scholarship, going to college, raising your son. Did you go off to college? Why did you go off to college? It seems like you're doing pretty well in all these business ventures, or was that just the thing to do? What was that next chapter like?
Uh, I like the way you're framing that question because emotionally, there's in the moment, and then there's the what's going to be different in the future. So I kind of had to make a tough call. I decided to go to Florida State. So I was up in Tallahassee for a couple years, and I justified making that move up there to better my future for me and my kids. Because at that
Oh,
point, all I was doing at, let's say, 17, 18 was trading my time for money to be in the same place with not a lot of uh, future growth, just
yep.
trading time like this. I would go to high school, work waiting tables if I wasn't in the kitchen. So I was doing anything and everything that could make money, but why would that ever stop if I didn't give myself a better skill set and an education? So then I went up to Tallahassee for a couple years. While I was there, I got a cool opportunity and I got to own my first restaurant at 20
Wow.
years old.
Wow. So you go to college at 18. Did you take your son with you, or did you go back and
Not,
visit your son,
yeah,
or
went back and
yep,
forth. Yeah.
back and forth? And same thing, you're probably working yourself through college. What did you go to school for?
Business and entrepreneurship. It was small business
There you go.
entrepreneurship at Florida State. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm
Florida
20
State.
years old, and then some of my old mentors from the restaurant industry started their own restaurant. So I got to be a partner and run operations at 20 years old. And the business was in my name, which was a cool story. I'm 20 years old and I have this Italian restaurant. I'm 20 years old and the beer and wine license is in my name.
Wow.
So
So
even though
you're
I
not
can't,
even old enough to drink.
but I can buy cases of it in kegs if I wanted to at 20.
Wow. Is
So
that
about
still a thing nowadays, or was that just a
no,
weird thing in the
it
80s?
it was in 1998. Yeah, 98.
1998.
This happened. And so after
Boy.
3 or 4 months, they said, "Hey, wait a second, you're not old enough to have a beer and wine license." And I go, "I'm 21 now." And they said,
Yeah, it's too
"Okay,
late.
okay."
Okay.
That's all they said.
Okay. So
So
where
yeah,
was this restaurant? Was this up in Tallahassee, or did you go back to Orlando area?
in the Orlando area. Yeah, so I did that for years, 7 days a week. I don't know, 12, 15 hours a day for years. And I was blessed to have that opportunity to run these. The one restaurant turned into three. So we
Oh,
had
wow.
multiple
So you're
locations.
scaling. Hell
Oh,
yeah. You're 21
well,
years old, you're scaling. Like, I'm not happy with one restaurant. People
uh,
right now, today, at your age, in their 40s, they would dream about owning a restaurant. I mean, and there's people in their 20s and teens, and that's their goal in life. And it's just to own one restaurant. Here you are at 21 years old running three.
yep. But
Wow.
again, I'm going to blame, not blame, I'm going to give credit to my mentors at the time. So obviously they were the driving force, having the experience on running businesses. And at that time, I was more in the operations leadership role, front of the house, kind of the face of the business. And they taught me a really cool lesson. Um, just keep enough money on you and your bank account so you and your family are happy. Everything else you should reinvest. So I kind of got conditioned. They're like, if you had $1 million, you still need to work 7 days a week. If you worked less than 60 hours, you were basically a wussy of a man, a wussy. So it was just one of those, oh, I'm the man. I can work 60 hours a week. And 60 hours was just 5 shifts. You still had 2 days off a week. So then you started going, well, what am I
Wow.
going to do with 2 days off? So they looked at money as just a tool to say, hey, this we could buy this place cheap down the road. Let's go take the money we have in our reserves, go buy another location. And we did. So I didn't even care about what was my bank account. It was how do I leverage this to create more assets so we could grow. And again, I'm 21 years old. I have a kid. He's doing fine. Everything was going good. I'm just kind of a workaholic. But I didn't know I
Wow.
was workaholic. I just thought I was normal amongst these people. Yeah.
Yeah, because you didn't know any better. You grew up working,
Yeah.
and then you get involved with these people. I think mentors are so important. People, yeah, it's tough in today's age with the whole mentorship thing.
Yeah.
Um, I was blessed to grow up around mentors, and I had mentors throughout my life. And I don't think there's any one mentor that lasts your whole life. For me, it was different stages of mentors. Like I could have somebody mentor me for a few months, and then you kind of outgrow them. But I was blessed to have them. But in today's age, it's like it's hard to find somebody that is willing to give into people, and it's hard to find people that are real. There's so many fake gurus out there,
Uh-huh.
and courses, and just a bunch of shit. And so how do you suggest people go find a mentor in today's age? Because it's not like what it was back then.
Oh, absolutely not. Well, yes and no. How do you help add value to that person in exchange for their time? I could tell
Yeah.
you, Alan, as one of the most influential people in the country in our industry, I can tell people who value their time very highly, they're not going to give it away lightly. So you need to align yourself with somebody who's going to say, well, if I give my time to Alan, how does that help me while feeling good helping out? So I always
Yeah.
try to say, how do you align yourself in your time and your skill set to add some value to that person's life? It doesn't matter if you're the errand boy or if you're just picking stuff up. Just being at that table, I think, is crucial. Just hearing the conversations. I think everybody who's ever been in business knows you'll hear a conversation, it clicks. And just because you were there, you're like, oh, I got it. No one had to, I didn't have to pay for that lesson. I was just at the table. So
Yeah.
I think being in an environment where everyone's goals are in line and by default they're either going to pull you up and you can help push them at the same time. So I think that's
There you
kind of
go.
equally important. You just can't be there to say, hey, give me, you need to equally
Give me, yeah.
value however you can.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's like, again, in the past, it seemed like it was easier to find mentors because you would find them throughout your business journey and career. And
Mhm.
today's age, so many stuff is online and starting their own business and stuff. And so it's hard to find that realism in mentors. So I personally suggest finding a mentor and somebody that you know, or at least dig deep into their receipts, right? You better
Sure.
make sure that this person is legit and do some background checks, especially if you're going to spend money, much less your time, because I think time is more important than and more valuable than money.
Sure.
So
I'm
you're
going to add
learning
on to
from
that.
these.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
add
Go
on
ahead.
to that. I think there's a big distinction between looking up to somebody as a mentor and someone having a good core beliefs and integrity that you're also aligned with. Because let's be honest,
Yep.
in our industry, there's a lot of guys who make a lot of money, but I don't
Yeah.
want to copy and paste how they got there.
Oh yeah.
So just because you see this person online, because you're right, there's a big distinction. Back in my day, there was no online, there was no internet. So it was a relationship just world. You had to be sincere about it. You couldn't bullshit your way to get in somebody's time, nor did you want to copy and paste somebody. You had to look over your shoulders because they would do shady things. And then at that time, you're going, hey, I'll take what I can get. And by default, we copy and paste our environments. You're a product of your environment. So I think it's a big deal when you're talking about online people to look up to. Make sure it's
Yeah.
you lead with integrity first, and then the money will follow if your goals are in line with that person.
No, I love that. And it doesn't have to be a mentor for everything. So you said something about like the people in our industry. There's a lot of really shitty people, a lot of shitty people
Mhm.
at the top and very successful. And some of my mentors, one stands out, one of my uncles, like I look up to him a lot in business, but not in personal relationships. That guy's a
Mhm.
piece of shit. But I love what he did in business. So I
Yeah.
I still call him a mentor. That doesn't mean I want to be who he is.
Yeah.
I can learn from his mistakes and follow his business practices. But then I bring in another mentor in my life that's been through my life my whole time, like my mother, right? And for her, it's I learned so many valuable traits like loyalty and respect and love and caringness and being a good parent. And but am I going to take business advice from my mom? Not so much, right? I'll take shopping advice from my mother, but
There you go.
not a ton of business advice. Sorry, Tammy, I love you. But yeah, so you can have mentors that mentor you for different things in your life. And again, it's just find somebody that's done it before that you look up to and but be careful who you follow because it can change you. If you're malleable, if you're that type of person that is changed easily, then it could change you and it could change you in the wrong direction. Um
Oh,
well,
I
let's
would.
talk more about Jason,
All right.
right? So
So I'll add
um
on to that about me, and it's
yeah,
something that I will die on this sword. I believe in sincere relationships, and we
yeah,
all know the expression "we're playing chess while other people are playing checkers." And I
yep,
think it's our society is conditioned to making a quick buck, making a quick sale, regardless of the, I guess, outcome of relationships. It's what's in it for
yeah.
them first, right? So I'm of the belief I've gotten some of these relationships I was just given the opportunity because I was a good person without nothing asking for nothing in return. I literally have a lot of relationships who probably never sent me business, who I'll probably do nothing but hang out with and have dinner and have a good time and laugh about traveling the world. But one day that person might introduce me to somebody, right? And if not, that's okay too. So I think everybody needs to kind of slow down on what relationships look like and stop saying, how can I manipulate this for my best interest? So it's something where I say you need to be sincere. You have to mean it, and they can smell if you're full of shit or not.
I love that. No,
Yeah.
I love that. That's great advice. Okay, well, let's get back to Jason. Let's get back to your story, right? So you're scaling these businesses, you have these restaurants, you have these mentors. What's the next step in your journey? So, what's after that? Do you continue to scale? Do you still own these restaurants? Um, are you a closet restaurateur? Do you have 100 different restaurants that I don't know
Great,
about?
great,
Right?
yeah, great question. So in Christmas Eve and 20, I'm
20.
sorry,
All right, we're moving
I'm
on
sorry,
up.
no, 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 in 1999.
99 Y2K. All
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So Y2K is about to hit in a few days. So the
Yeah,
world's in
so
a
life's
panic.
about to end. The world's
Yeah,
going to end.
so one of my friends who I grew up with jumped into real estate. And so now he's 22 years old and he's making 150, 200K a year just doing real estate in
Yeah.
Orlando and different So I'm like, I am totally missing out. This guy's working 30 hours a week, making three times the money I am. Maybe this restaurant life is not for me. So I parted ways a week later. So
Wow.
I started,
You didn't even fuck around. It's just
yeah,
like,
well,
you're making what? I'm quitting my businesses.
at that time I was going through a uncomfortable leadership growth stage where I was trying to take more control, have more of a voice, new directions on how we expanded the business, and then I kept getting shut down because they wanted to keep
Mhm.
it low key
Yeah. You were a
without.
child in the corner that they used as a tool, right? And I think people need to come to realize that you have to be really careful in relationships, how you enter them, business relationships, because you will get pegged as some person, and it's really hard to grow as a partner because the partners are always going to look down upon you, right? They're your mentors to this kid. I'm not gonna push them up. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I had always had a millionaire mindset. If I can figure out how to make $10,000 a month, I know I can work really hard and get to 20. And they had a system that was very capped. They didn't want to draw any more
Mm,
attention. So I felt like if I'm going to be capped, I need to explore other opportunities so I can grow at a faster rate. So again, I'm not responsible for myself at 21 years old. Yeah, I just turned 21 at that time. And so I basically went into real estate industry at 21, which
love it.
was mind blowing, especially in Orlando, which was really thriving at that time.
Yeah, it's pre
So,
08. Shit's blowing
yeah,
up, right?
oh, it was, yeah. So, yeah, it was great to say the least. So I moved to Orlando and got out of the restaurant industry at that time. I just
Wow.
felt like
That's
if I'm going to feel capped in my growth, and I think this is at the core where most entrepreneurs, if you're sincerely a good entrepreneur, you feel a limit in a roof and it's not by your design, find a way
Yeah.
to break that bubble or find people who can help you grow. And it was one of the lessons I didn't know over and over again. I didn't want to feel captured or just, I don't know, caged. I wanted to have unlimited potential. So that was
There you
something
go.
I didn't
Don't
realize that
stay
bothered me.
stuck.
Oh,
Yeah, if you're stuck in a spot, get out of it. Don't
yeah,
don't even think about it. If you
yeah,
feel like you're stuck and there's a ceiling, get the hell out of there and do something different.
that's
Make
right.
that quick decision. I'm a big believer in that. So,
So,
how'd the real estate go? How does that look? What
uh,
were you doing?
so took my real estate test. Everything's going good, and then I got into understanding why my buddy was making so much money. He was doing timeshare.
Oh, okay. Timeshares. Yeah. That was big business back then.
Oh my
Nowadays,
gosh!
people I don't know, I feel
Yeah,
like for a long time, people hated timeshares, but now they may be coming back around? I don't know, but back then, it was everybody loved it, right?
it was crazy because people didn't understand about the in perpetuity clause in every ownership deed. So I could go on another whole subject on how it's such a scam at the highest level and how they're so hard to get out of those contracts. But at the time, when you're naive and you're chasing money, you're like, all you gotta do is sell somebody why they need a vacation home, and it's this benefit. So at the time, I kind of shied away because it wasn't my personality to be a hardcore closer. Like basically, they would
Yeah.
insult these families, insult the men of the family, going, "Well, if you're going to let your kids live in roach infested beds and that's the father you're going to be, I understand you really don't care about your family." And so the sale tactics were out of
Ugh.
my moral and ethical code. And that bothered me going, this is what you got to do to make money. And I didn't like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean,
that
it
didn't
makes
go
a
as
lot of sense.
planned. Yeah.
Yeah, you
But
can't sell
again, you don't
something
know
you
what you
don't
don't
believe
know.
in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do you do now? Now you're in Orlando, you've left your restaurants. Did you leave that door open? Did you go back? What was the next step after that?
By the grace of God, because my reputation at the restaurants, a friend of a friend said, "Hey, I'm looking to buy some bars. I'm looking to buy this very specific bar. The gentleman's getting divorced, so it's on the down low. We can get a great deal on it, but we want you to run it. We want you to run it, Jason, and be our partners." So I'm like, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah,
So,
because the bar business is probably the only thing cooler than the restaurant business,
oh,
right? I
it
mean,
was everything I dreamed of. So I'm 22 and I owned my first bar. We took it from, I don't know, $800 a week in sales, right? And the next thing you know, we're doing 12,000 a week in sales, all
there
within a
you
matter
go.
of just remember, there's no social media at this
And
point.
that's 2000. That's year
Yeah.
2000, year 2001. That's
Uh,
big business
it
back
was,
then.
oh my gosh, it was amazing. I was, again, just relationships in my community. If you have a bad reputation, everyone's going to know it. And I designed it with a lot of sociology in mind. And it's not hard. It's not rocket science. Anybody's ever been to a bar understands the dynamic of how that business model works, which is keep females happy and safe, and they'll come back.
There you go.
Have the environment, which is your four walls, so you got your visual, audio, and your smell, and then you're kind of going into it's like, how do I feel? So for the guys spending money, if they say plenty of girls that seem happy and the prices are good, and that's an environment that's inviting, you're going to come back. And then it took no time to explode. So fast, we had an opportunity to buy two more of the most
Wow.
famous bars in this college town. So Stetson University's in this area, which is called the Harvard of the South. So it's this really high end private school. So at this time, the bar business was exploding. So I couldn't have been any happier when we bought those and we expanded. I remember probably emotionally, I'll never forget this. I'm 23 years old, sitting on the curb sidewalk on a Friday night across the street from my bar, line out the door, just a line out the door, and it held about 600 to 800 people between upstairs and downstairs. And you couldn't fit any more kids in this place. And we couldn't print money any faster. And I'm 23 years old, about 10, it was about around every Friday, it was like 10 o'clock. We'd sit over there and go, wow, we did it. And then I got depressed. So when I said, I'm 23, I am the most successful bars. Is this it for life? Is this all I have? It didn't seem that hard to accomplish this. Where most I
Yeah.
thought at the time these adults would spend their entire life and their precipice or their peak would to own that business that had that moment. And I'm like, I'm 23. I'm on my multiple business right now. This isn't hard. It takes work
Yeah.
and consistency, and you got to love what you do. But that was it. I was like, well, I checked it off my list. What's next? So we did that for years, and very, very lucky. Did very well.
Wow. What was it like being in your early to mid 20s making really good money? Were you smart with
Again,
it? Were you spending it? Were
yeah,
you
I was smart
partying?
with it. I bought because I had some real estate experience now. I started buying and flipping houses down in South Florida. I had the
There you
bars.
go.
Me and my ex at the time, we were together for 10 years. So the whole time I had the bars, I was just there for business. I wasn't there to chase girls. I was very focused on growing
Oh, so you
everything.
had a serious relationship while you're owning
Yep.
these bars. That was gonna
Yep.
be my other question. I bet that was
Yep.
awesome. You probably run into a bunch of ladies,
Oh, yeah,
at the
there was
bars, but no?
unlimited sororities. They would come in packs.
Oh, and everybody wants the owner, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So again, I condition the environment. So when people talk about how do you set a business up, know your demographic and set it up for that to be successful. I would literally go knock on the sorority doors and say, "Hey, what's your favorite songs? When you guys come in, I'm going to play your song when you walk in." And they
There you
took that
go.
as a sign of honor. Like, you're going to do that for us? I'm like, "Hey, I'll do that for you. I'll play you your favorite songs when you show up." So 20 and 30 girls would come at a time fighting over who would dance on the bar, who would get the stage, who would get this, and they felt special. And I had a rule: if a girls were on stage, no guys allowed, none, no
There you go.
acceptance. They felt safe in this space, and it was their time. Now, as the guy is sitting in the back drinking the Bud Light, what an environment! You have so many. The girl guy ratio was amazing, and everybody was happy, safe. It was clean. The bathrooms were nice. Like, it was a really nice spot in time to kind of showcase this is what people are asking for. Just give it to them. And most people forget that. Uh, I'll give you an example. I get door knockers at my house once or twice a week, and I explain to them the psychology of when you're talking to a female or you're talking to a male, they have different emotional triggers. So your pitch should be different on how to make them happy. And if you don't know that
Yeah.
difference, you're kind of missing the boat, no matter how good your price is. So it was something that we took advantage of and did well in that environment.
No, the psychology of sales is so important. And again, it's you're in this restaurant, bar business, this hospitality business, and it's all based on service. You're finding your clients' needs. You're sitting there and saying the women need to feel safe. The women need to have a place that they enjoy. Now the men are easy; they just need women. So
They
so your
want good
ideal
prices
client's
and
the
women.
women. Just take care of the women, and then the men can go in, right?
Oh, that's right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And I wish people cared more today about that. It seems like, and I'm not a bar goer anymore, so I guess I truly don't know, but the having that safety first mentality for women. I have a daughter. She's very young. She's not going to be allowed in bars like this whatsoever, right? No, let's hope so. But if she is, I do really want a place where they care about the safety first and put
Mhm.
them first. That's what
I
matters.
worked really tight with the police department. I was a board member of the Main Street Association. I was part of the Chamber of Commerce, so I was really involved on the perception of my business in the community, which goes back to the McDonald's 5 Ps, and it's the perception section under marketing. So if you don't know your 5 Ps, the McDonald's 5 Ps in marketing, go study that for your own business and find out where am I lacking and where can I improve myself. And if you don't ask those tough questions, you're missing so many opportunities because you're not aware of where you can improve. So I was very
Yeah.
involved with the city. We would get our hands slapped saying, "Hey, there was beer cans in the back alleys," and I'm like, "Cool. Just so you know, we don't sell beer cans, but I'll hire extra guys to clean the property and perimeter every night, regardless if it's ours or not, because this is still our city." And because we took pride in something that wasn't our responsibility, except I didn't want the perception to even exist out there. So
Yeah.
it went a long ways of influencing your community. If you're not aware of how to do that, reach out to me.
There you go. I love it. I love it. So what's next? I mean, it's
So
you've
so you
operated these
brought something
bars. You're in
up.
your mid 20s.
Yeah,
Yep.
you brought something up earlier, and I was like, here we go. I know we're gonna touch on it. So at this time, I'm pretty liquid. Yeah, cash flow was not an issue, and I had some other people I respected a lot. making, I don't know, 80 to 100K a month, just net. And all they were doing was flipping houses. So I sold my shares of the business, went and lived in South Florida. So I lived in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and business was good. All you needed was a heartbeat to buy a house. It was insane. Insane. So next thing you know, I've got millions of dollars of real estate on the books, and then the '08 crash hit. So when
So
you mentioned that,
I've foreshadowed that when I said,
yeah.
"Oh, wait."
So yeah,
No, it's
it was definitive. It was. I lost everything. Everything I ever had in my life, I lost it
wow.
all. Lost it
My
all. Started all
generation
over.
doesn't understand that. I mean, I think we're in different generations. The generations are so wide nowadays. It's like
Yeah,
whatever, but you got me by about 20 years and or 10 years, sorry. But but I'm definitely post '08, and I don't understand this huge loss. We always complain about boomers buying cheap houses and this and that, right? It's like, "Oh, this isn't fair." Right? Why are houses so expensive right now? We got kids, we're trying to grow, but I think I would trade that for losing everything you ever had,
everything.
pre '08,
Yeah.
or after '08.
Yeah.
Was
If
that
anybody, yeah. So I can't exaggerate enough. If you had a heartbeat, you could buy a house. And then at the
wow.
time, it was, if you understood the loan to value ratio of a property, if it was worth $1 million and I could buy it for 500, a bank would qualify you in half a second because they hope you default. They're about to get a
Yeah.
$1 million asset for half the price. Why do they care? So then we got smart and then said, well, I want a loan for 600,000. So at the closing table, I'd make 100. Well, after closing fees, I'd make around $78,000. So I would buy a property and make $78,000. So then I could put it
Wow.
into the property, fix it, flip it, rent it, whatever we were doing, and it didn't
Did
cost
y'all
me
not
anything.
have appraisals to go with those
Oh yeah.
loans, or
Oh
was it
yeah, of
just
course. That's how you got the loan to value ratio. And so these
yeah.
appraisals were coming in like $800,000, what 900,000, and I would buy it on the wholesale market, and then I would still get a loan for a little bit more, so I had cash to improve the property. So I could buy and flip and not take a penny in my pocket. OPM baby.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So
And
when
so
so when it
essentially,
crashed, we
what
lost
was it
everything.
that hurt? So what was it? How did you lose everything? For the people that don't understand '08 because they weren't in it, you own all these properties. These properties are yours. They're in your name. You've got a monthly payment that goes out every month for your mortgage on these properties. What are you doing with these properties? Are you renting these out right now? Um, how are you making income off these properties? Or are you just trying to flip them and that's what killed you?
Flipping was the name of the game. Again, I'm buying most of these properties 50 cents on the dollar. We had a couple that were 30, 45 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar. If I got
So
it
you're
for
buying
50,
low, selling high. That's what it
that's
is.
no,
Okay.
I was buying at 50 to 60 cents on the dollar. Take out a loan. I'm around 65% was like the highest I would do it. So I could sell it to somebody for 80 cents on the dollar. So it'd sell quickly. And again, the appraised value said a million, and I would sell it for 800,000. Because remember, I made cash up front when I bought it. I just put it in a
Yeah.
better condition to justify why it would increase. And sometimes the appraised value would increase even more. So what happened was that every bank basically gave everybody a loan for anything they want, as long as it appraised fine, as long as you had basic credit. I mean, a heartbeat was fine. And if you could justify the cash flow on the property and why it was there, it wasn't hard to get a loan. And what happened is over about a year and a half, a good maybe going on two, but a good solid year and a half, anybody and everybody got a loan buying these houses, which inflated the prices of these homes tremendously. The house I bought, when the one I lived into, I paid 315,000 for it. It should have been 200,000, but because of supply and demand, you couldn't get it cheaper than 300,000. There was such a demand. So then, when the market caps out and it's super saturated, and then nobody can buy these houses anymore because of the increased price,
Because they're
then
just too
everybody
expensive. Yeah.
then everybody's scrambling to sell. But now when the subprime, which means the CD credits, A's your 700 plus, B's 620 to 7 ish, and then you have your CDs, which are subprime for your mortgages. You're basically looking at a whole demographic who can never qualify. So the guys who were qualified, now they're held with 10 properties. It was nothing to pay $28,000 a month in mortgages. So
Yeah.
at this time, you're kind of going, I need to sell these so I can pay my own bills. And then because nobody could qualify anymore, and then the whole collapse of the market started happening really fast. You couldn't sell it, you couldn't give it away. And that's
So
where everybody
essentially,
got
you
stuck.
have all these properties that you purchased for let's just say $500,000. And the goal was to sell them for 6 to 800, which you were doing with other properties, and it was working. And then all of a sudden, the market dropped out, and these $500,000 properties are now worth 200,000, three hundred
No,
thousand. If you
no,
could sell them,
no,
or
because
you
once
just
it
couldn't
becomes
sell them
an
at all.
appraised, once it's appraised, right? Because the comp dollars are based on obviously the properties that sell in that area. It
Yeah,
didn't really devalue the property. It just
but
was
nobody would
really
buy it at that, right?
nobody could
Something's
qualify
only nobody could
because
qualify to get the loan to buy
yeah,
it
because
because,
remember,
yep,
you basically had to have perfect credit to buy a
yeah.
house. Once it collapsed and the subprime fell out, you basically had to have perfect credit, shit ton of money down,
So
and
you
this.
couldn't get a loan. So it wasn't about the price, but again, if you can't get a loan,
Yep,
then you can't sell the properties.
yep,
So the price goes down, right? Or you
yep.
just hold the properties, or did you rent them
You could
out,
have.
or did
I
you?
had everything foreclosed on, bankrupt, and everything.
Wow. So
Yep.
you filed that full bankruptcy, in which a lot of people did. A ton of people. I know
Yep.
so many people that went through '08 that were successful beforehand. That's what you have to do.
Mhm.
Thankfully, we live in a society and in an economy where you actually have a reset button, right?
Yeah.
Because if we didn't, then that would suck. That would really suck.
Yeah.
So there's no shame in that. If anybody's in business right now and are struggling or underwater and they really can't crawl out of it, don't be afraid of the reset button. There's nothing wrong with bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is there for a reason. It's there to benefit people. It's one of the great things about our government and our economy that we have the ability to do that. So man, how is starting over? How did that feel?
So there was two parts to it, and maybe anybody who's a door knocker. There's such a cool benefit to having the confidence to know I struck out today, or I had a bad day, or you got your ass kicked today, and I got to start all over again tomorrow. Once you understand that's life, then you kind of get used to it. And you're like, let's just start all over again. But as a man, you have your pride and your ego, and then when you look at your wife and say, "I'm sorry, we're losing everything. It's my fault."
Yeah,
Emotionally, that's tough. So I went back to what I know, which was the hospitality industry. Got a job working at Daytona Beach, managing a high volume restaurant, and just started from over again. And uh, it was good. It wasn't as hard as I thought physically, financially. It was just the emotional challenges. I think most
emotionally.
people don't know what it's like.
Yeah, you got to swallow that humble pie. Um, so you had already like filed bankruptcy, so you got rid of this a ton of this debt. So your monthly nut probably went way down. So you were
Oh,
able
just
to do that.
we rented a nice waterfront property in New Smyrna, and I'm living on the water. Dolphins in my front yard, and I'm still working
Yeah.
60 something hours a week. I had an okay
And you know, the whole
salary.
point is like it's not the end of the world. It's
Nope.
truly not. Like no matter who you are, where you are in life, if you lose everything, starting over is not that bad because you got rid of all that debt and now you're able to rent a place and now you're renting. And I don't know, after '08, I feel like the rental market may be pretty decent. So you found a place and from there you start over, you go into the business that you know, right? If your back is up against the wall, do what you know. Make money how you know. So that's what you did. And luckily, you live in an area that has a great hospitality industry. So you found a restaurant, and luckily, you didn't start at the bottom. Bottom. You weren't scrubbing floors, waiting tables, or bussing. You took a manager position, correct?
Mhm. Yep. Did very well
Um,
at that, and then
there you go.
I I I don't know. Nobody could convince me. I operated at a very high level in the hospitality industry, and I had some really new mentors that looked at life very differently from my previous ones. And I'll never forget some of the quotes they would give me. If you can run a high level, very high branded corporate restaurant, you can run any Fortune 500 company in the world and spin circles around most of those guys. Now, I
Wow,
don't know how true that is, but I felt like he was accurate. And here's
it's
why.
good motivation, right?
Yeah.
That
And I'm
pumps
like,
me up.
I am a badass. I know how to write the best P&Ls and labor performas, and I understood the financial back ends and cost of goods, and I understood that inside and out for many years. But what he meant was is in our positions, we had to wear the HR hat, the sales hat, the PR hat. We had to get down and dirty and run in operations and put out fires and then get out to the community. So I got to run every position there was every day, constantly. Where most corporate Americans, you're in HR. That's all you do every day is HR. You're marketing. That's all you do every day. Your sales. That's it. So in the bigger Fortune 500 companies, they're not well rounded. And so as entrepreneurs, you get conditioned to go and I need to understand every side or every facet to this. And it
Yeah.
conditions you to become better, well rounded as an entrepreneur.
Love that. Love that. So, how long did you stay there? So
I
you're
was there.
managing
I
this
was,
business.
yeah. Yeah, I was there
Yep.
a few years and then I got recruited. It was my first time having a recruiter, and he got a percentage of my salary at this new spot. So I go to this
So
restaurant that has,
you went and found a headhunter and
yeah,
had there you
yeah.
go.
And he reached out to me, and I was just like, okay, because again, I was starting to feel that cap. My position, the general manager, amazing human being. I didn't want his job because he was that good. He was that sincere. I looked up to him even to this day. Great, great human. So where am I going to go? They weren't opening up new stores, and how many years am I going to sit here and wait? Which is not in
Yeah.
my soul to just sit here and wait. So I'm on a rhythm at this point. So I got recruited to go to this new brand. They had like 23 locations. So I took
There we go.
over the worst store in the company, and their metrics on how they measured stores was amazing. It was kind of like a
Oh
golf.
wow.
It was kind of like a golf score, and
There you go.
so if you were the number one store in this category, cost of goods, sales year over year, quarter over quarter, profit on your jobs, your liquor costs, your labor rates, any metric you could measure a business, they had one. And if you were in first place, you got a score of a one. So the lowest score got you the highest rank. So I took the worst store in the company because of all the lawsuits and all the drama that came with it. And I eventually, and after 6 months, turned it to the number one store in the company, and that was a big deal. And then I said, well, once my belief system was against what the corporate model was. So I said, without customer service, none of this matters. Nobody cares if the girls are cute. Nobody cares what the price is if you give bad service. So I spent countless months with my team training everybody about how important teamwork was and how important service was, building a brand in the community because I meant more than the price of your beer. So I would
Yeah.
really spent many, many years in the hospitality world about this is how sales are built off service, brand, and consistency. So next thing you know, we make number one. I'm the general manager. Month two, I'm number one. Only one other store in the company's history in 20 something years had done it 2 months in a row. So I said, what do I
Wow.
get? What do I get if I do it 3 months in a row?
Yeah.
And, and so they're like, well, you get to have the company, big Hummer truck and this and that. And I'm like, all right. So I did it
Plaque.
3 months.
You get a
Yeah.
plaque.
So I
Right.
got it.
Yeah.
That's right. So I did it 3 months in a row, 4 months in a row, 5 months in a row, 6 months in a row.
Awesome.
Broke every
Wow.
record there was, and here was my trick: service, and then finding creative ways to teach the staff to be accountable for numbers, right? The sales, profit, teamwork, culture. So I don't have a high attrition rate and turnover, which is one of the highest expenses businesses have. Constantly churning
Yeah.
employees. You're throwing money away because you either lied or hired wrong, or you don't know how to maintain and train. So it was one of the things that I was blessed that was a fundamental basic for me. So I had the number one store 6 months in a row. They were trying to promote me in another position. And that's just one of those moments from like, I'm going to get capped out working 80 hours a week, doing the
Yeah.
same thing till I die. And I felt like, nah, I conquered this. I destroyed every record there was. I need to find something else.
There you go.
Yeah.
So boom, it's just again, everywhere that you go into, you become the best, you turn it around. But by this time, even though you're still pretty young, you've lived a full life and ran full businesses and
Yeah.
turned around. So it's really an unfair advantage. All those other people running those restaurants couldn't compete with you because you actually owned your own and your bar, and you know how to please people, and you had mentors, and you did everything the right way, taking the right steps. You The only reason that you were there is because Oh, wait, but you didn't make an
Right.
excuse. You got off your ass and you went to work, right? The same things apply. So you're having these things where success leaves clues, and now you're deriving the clues off your own success and mentors at the same time. Uh, so you're feeling stuck. You see that ceiling, and you realize you don't want to live that life, even though you are a successful entrepreneur. I would still, just because you don't own the name on the wall doesn't mean you're not running that entire business. So you're a
Mhm.
very successful entrepreneur at the time, but because you don't own that name, you realize there's a ceiling. So what is that? How do you fix that? What was your next step? Did you call the headhunter back? Did
No,
you?
no. Again, I've been a man of faith since I was a tiny child, and I believe God gives opportunities. You either know how to pay attention to it, or you're going to live your own hard path. So I have to tell a quick story before I go into this next one. Not because
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
stories are going to go this way. When I was in high school, I wanted to be an architect. So I grew up building tree houses, and I took architectural drafting while I was in high school, and I did really
Oh
well
wow.
at it. Math was really easy for me, and I wanted to go to college for an architect. So it was hard for me to find a wrestling scholarship and architectural at the same time. So that was one of my
Oh
influences.
yeah.
So from a construction mindset, I love drawing out construction properties and all the intricate systems and things like that. What did you give you a backstory on where I'm about to go now?
No, that makes a lot of sense because you were so good in the hospitality, and that's
Yeah,
where life took you,
yeah,
but that wasn't necessarily what your passions were.
that's
But
right.
now you've learned all of these entrepreneur skills. You're following your heart, led by God, that
Yeah,
could push you back to where your
yeah,
heart goes and your passion is.
yeah. So I always said I was going to be an architect because understood building mechanics, right? So I'm here one night, closing down the restaurant, and this guy comes in, kind of an asshole, to be honest, and he was just making. Again, we're literally closed within minutes of closing, or we're right after closing, and he was just very demanding. And I said, oh, yeah, I can fix that. That's no big deal. And I handled the situation and came to him, and he goes, you know what? I really didn't care. I just want to see how you responded. He goes, I'm looking for somebody like you who can handle things under pressure and make me feel like you cared. He goes, I'm the president of this company, and what they do is they design, build hotels and restaurants. So they're in the hospitality
Ah.
construction consultant business. So he goes, we run the account for the Daytona race speedway track. We run casinos and hotels. We run all these major accounts. And I need somebody in this area just like you. And I said, say no more. I'm all in.
Yeah.
And
So the
I didn't ask
douchebag.
for it. Yeah. And he was testing me on how I would respond. Even though it was silly, and he still felt like, wow, he didn't fight me because it wasn't the most logical argument. It was silly, but it was just how I
Yeah.
handled it, right? I have a lot of patience with people that way because you never know. It could be a test, or he's having a bad day and it's not his fault that day. But yeah, I got a job with a really big company as a construction consultant in the hospitality space. So I got to literally break out my blueprints, my drafting paper, and design out the flow of bars, restaurants, uh, parts of the hotel. So I got to be really involved doing hospitality and my architectural background. So when it came to construction, I knew to just draw it, design it, build it, and then sell from a consultant perspective. And I loved it. I got to get some world famous hotels that I helped design to this day over here in Daytona Beach.
Wow.
We're actually where NASCAR got started. So my
Yeah,
buddy,
there you
my
go.
my buddy owned that property, and I helped him build it out for about a year and a half. Yep.
Wow. So now you're doing what you're passionate about, but you're still working for somebody else. You're not an entrepreneur anymore, kind of. So you're owner, entrepreneur, but now you're learning something, but utilizing all your past tools.
Yep.
Did you feel that same feeling? Did you grow? What was your reasoning for changing at that point in time? Because you don't do that today, right? And so it's funny talking to you about this all in order, right? Because I know a lot of different stories that is Jason's entrepreneur journey, but
Mhm.
they're all like random and a lot of sayings, a lot of strategy, a lot of advice. But to be able to put this all together for me, it's like, So I'm really enjoying this, by the way. So what's,
so
what's next throughout that?
I kind of got into a position, or I don't know, a rut. Everybody at that company was really professional. It was very streamlined. It was very um, just family owned business, and they were well known and famous in our industry, or the hospitality construction consultant business. But again, I felt like there were some limits in the walls, and I couldn't take over territories. Then it like my area shrunk where I could work, and then that gave me
Mm.
less opportunities, and you know how I feel about that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what I want to take over the world, and the moment you limit that, it's like, well, then why am I doing
Uh,
this? Yeah, it was
yeah.
so so I had a opportunity to start another restaurant with one of my childhood friends, and we took advantage. It jumped on it and started a restaurant in a matter of 2 weeks. So,
Bam!
so I
Moving
left there,
fast,
and
right?
oh, just you sometimes you got to make quick decisions.
Yep.
So we did that, and turnkey. We came out of the gate hot, insane busy. Now we have social media. At this time, I got this restaurant.
Yeah.
And
It's like,
now
I got
I'm
all these tools that I never had.
yeah,
Let's
it was
go.
insane, insane. We're literally we would do in 1 week what they would do in about 2 months in sales, and they were in
Wow.
business for years. So, we did really well on that. Unfortunately, my business partner at the time had a gambling addiction and liked to embezzle money, so we parted ways.
Wow.
To sum that up
That's
as a quick,
wow. That, yeah, that hits hard. You know, a lot of people that I've talked to have had bad experiences with partners, but they were a little fresher, so they didn't really want to get deep into it. But they gave some basic general
yep.
advice on it. What is your advice after being screwed over or on red flags to look at? I mean, did you know going into this? You know how to read people. So going into this, do you look back and say, "Man, there's signs here. I should have known. I should have known," or what kind of advice do you have to give to somebody that's either entering in a partnership or in a partnership?
That's a great question. I don't know if I would have done anything different based on the information I had at the time. And right, and that's all we
Yeah.
can do is if your gut tells you, "Hey, I should be aware of these things," sure, follow your gut. Put everything you can in contracts, cover your ass, dot your I's, and that's not wrong. But unfortunately, and I say this a lot, people change when you give them money, power, responsibilities. They get an ego and they become different people. And I've seen it happen so many times. It's like, man, it's just money. It comes and goes. Nobody cares about your title. Nobody cares. You have a job to do. So I think if somebody who's the perfect person at the time, have they ever had experience where they were in a position of power and had money, and how did they handle it? And that was a question I never thought to ask because I didn't know people could change that much. So I don't know. For me, it was just we're building another business again. We're going to build another business. So building the business is a fun part to me. I'll start from ground zero
Oh, it's a
and
blast.
create something. Oh, it's my
Yeah,
favorite
it's a
part.
blast.
It's that, and this is why I love your podcast. It's the journey that people don't get to see behind the scenes. It's the hours and you're in tears trying to figure out how you're going to pay the electric bill and struggling with anxiety to sleep. They don't get to see that part. They just see the result. So I don't
But
know
what you
what I've
said
done
was
differently.
best was you were depressed at 23 years old, sitting there looking at what you accomplished. Like the
Yeah,
goal
yeah,
is not the best, it's the journey. It's always the journey. It's always
yeah.
that love, that passion for that journey. That's what's
Mm.
fun, that's what's fulfilling. We love that pain of going through it that every
Yeah.
entrepreneur does. You
Oh,
have to love the pain.
oh, yeah, yeah. We need to put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, every
Enjoy the
entrepreneur. You
pain.
wanna be an entrepreneur, learn how to enjoy the pain. Be
Yeah,
comfortable in the discomfort.
I just told my wife the other day, embrace the suck. It's part of being
Embrace the
well, my
suck.
wife's pregnant with twins, and so
I
I
won't
told
make a
her,
wife joke on that, but,
yeah.
okay.
So there's a lot of families. I will add this as part of my story. My wife and I tried for 8 years to get pregnant. And so there's an emotional toll that comes from not having those experiences. And then when you do
Yeah.
get it, even though there's tough days, we're so grateful to have the tough days, if
Yep.
that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that makes plenty of sense. So, man, just so many good just from your life and your journey, there's so much people can take and learn from. And again, I'm excited going down this road. Like the partnership thing for me though is the only advice I could really give, people, and even just hearing yours, is like have that prenup, right? Have that
Yep.
prenup, have that agreement, set yourself up for that, because addiction is one thing that you can't really foresee to an extent. Yeah, there's signs of it, but what are those signs, especially in the hospitality business, in entrepreneurship? We talked about this in Raymond's podcast, and how the high of success is probably better than any other high. So gambling is really tough. That's a tough one, because gambling is instant success times 10 times 100, and the more money you make, the
Yeah.
worse it gets,
Mm,
and so more money, more problems, right?
yep. It
People say Biggie says more money, more problems, and people say that, but that's not it. More money just amplifies problems. It makes
it
problems worse.
it does. The problem with gambling, and when I mean gambling, I just mean the poker room right down the road. And
Yeah.
we had a lot of obviously fights about it. And in society, if somebody says, "Hey, I heard somebody's addicted to crack," we all like, "Oh, really? He got on drugs?" But no one
Yeah.
blinks twice when you're like, "Oh, he went down to the poker room and made $500." They're like, "Good for you. We encourage it." And it's socially
Yeah.
acceptable. It's kind of like, "Oh, no big deal. He went to play poker for a little bit. Not a big deal." And it's not. It's just, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, why it's so hard to identify.
Yeah. That's, you know, gambling is insane, and it's people should look at it just as bad as crack, if not worse. I think it's more addicting. I've had those emotions where I've been spending money, and always had a saying in my head: "Scared money don't make money." You know, and for me, it's like playing with options and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Is like, and I told you this. It's like the emotional thing that it does to me, even when I'm winning. I'm not winning enough, so I'm angry. So I don't feel fulfilled, and maybe something's wrong with me. I don't know, but I think gambling is very scary. What I'm saying is, like you said, you couldn't have foresaw that, because it got worse over time as he spent more and lost more.
Mhm.
So that makes plenty of sense. So what did you do after that breakup? Did you lose it all and have to start over again? Um, what did
No,
you do
I
next?
I
It's
was
like
very I
again.
was financially responsible. My wife and I, we kind of saw the writing on the wall. We were a little bit more proactive, knowing where the direction we need to go and what we needed to protect ourselves. So at this time on that transition out of there, I became an independent adjuster in the insurance industry.
There you
So
go. Now you enter our world, right?
yeah, yeah. So back in 2017.
2017, and that's hurricane time. There's
Yep.
Irma, right?
Irma.
Right?
Yep.
Irma was
Irma.
that year? That's
Yep.
a great year to enter the insurance restoration industry in Florida. Hurricane
Yep.
Irma.
Yep.
One of the biggest regrets I have is not working that storm. But hey, that's what it is.
So, as an IA, they have a fee schedule. The fee schedule says you get this much, and just for everybody who doesn't know how understand how IAs make money, when they write a scope and they have a fee schedule, it says between $0 and $2,500, you might make $300, and so on. 2,500 to
That goes
7,500.
up, right?
Yep.
The more you
Right.
pay out, the more you make.
So IAs technically are incentivized to take care of the homeowner, because the more they write for, the more money they make. So I said, let me get this straight. I can work unlimited hours and make as much money as I could. Now, remember during Hurricane Irma, 2 weeks prior, you had Hurricane Harvey in Texas. So
Yep.
Texas is flooded for miles in every direction. So all the IAs in the country went to
They're in
Texas.
Texas. Yep.
Irma
And they're
hits.
probably from Texas, most of them.
It's
So
possible. That's
they wanna
possible.
be in Texas. Yep.
So in Florida, 2 weeks later, there's this statewide shortage of IAs. So there's a emergency license to get your license in Florida. Anywhere in the country, we needed IAs because it's part of the financial commission to make sure a homeowner, when they file a claim, they get a response, somebody to talk to them, communicate within 30 days. Anything, just to say, hey, we got your claim. And because there's basically millions of claims hit the desk within a week, there wasn't enough IAs. So basically, the fee schedule, how you got paid, doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled, because they were paying anybody they could as much as they could. They just needed bodies. So
There you go.
If you showed up to a house as an IA, you got $1,000. If you said, "Well, you got two missing shingles, I got $1,000." So you could make 8,000, 10,000 a day as fast as you could handle the claims, write up your estimates, submit everything, and write the narratives. And so as an IA, you're making 33, 40K a month, as many hours as you wanted to work, and you could never run out of claims. It was insane. So then I got my
Wow.
taste of the insurance industry, and I got to go back to this software called Xactimate. So I get to use my architectural brain now and design things. Everything's
Yeah.
coming full circle. So I get to
Doing the
use,
drawings, the
yes.
making the money, building
Oh,
it out. Yep.
I'm living my dream, and it just took so many years to come full circle of everything I basically was building my entire life to. And remember when I was living in Miami and I'm flipping houses, I had hands-on experiences fixing staircases and roofing systems and kitchens and
Mhm.
electrical. So I knew how to flip and touch and build everything myself, besides hiring people. And so now I'm in this IA position. I understood the IA perspective. And I was blessed to work for a really good IA firm, which was pay them every penny they deserve, not a penny more, not a penny less. And I'm like, this is the best job ever. I'm a hero. I get to help these
Yeah.
people as an IA. And I was brainwashed to think I was really helping them. But they only give you enough training to say, report what you see. If it's damaged, just report it. Doesn't mean we're paying for it. So a lot of IAs, when they tell you they can draw it up, they might tell you, I see it, and then they submit it to management. Management says no. As an IA, you kind of don't have a choice. You just say, okay, whatever. Because as an IA, you don't know what's in that policy, typically
And a lot
across
of
the
times you
board.
don't see that though,
No,
right? As an IA, you don't
nope,
even know that
that's
they
right.
don't pay out what
That's right.
you wrote your estimate for,
Yeah.
right?
Every time I run into an IA, I tell them I used to be an IA. I know you've got 100 plus claims on your desk, and you're doing the best you can. I'm here to help you do this together.
Yeah.
So I'm not combative with IAs because most of them are genuinely thinking they're helping. They just don't know what they don't know. So
Yeah.
yeah. So when I got into that world, the hurricane starts tapering down, and next thing you know, I'm making $200 a day, having to drive across the state for a hot water heater that broke in grandma's condo. So I'm like, all right, well, how do I make more money? I'll just wait for another storm. And here I am again feeling like, well, this is not a good business model if there's not a hurricane.
Feast and famine, something
Yeah,
outside of your control.
I didn't like it.
Welcome to storming, baby.
So, so I took this job with this mitigation company, which gave me more experience on mitigation across the board. And they did a lot of volume of work. And I got to write exactimates and mitigating these properties. And then I got my PA license, and I got hired with one of the best companies in the country who did commercial. So in
Mm.
2018, I'm working Hurricane Michael. And from then on, I was hooked. I'm in the commercial space. I'm being trained by the best in the country. I don't know that at the time. I just a little
Yeah.
overwhelmed because it was a learning curve. I'm not saying it was easy. And my first year as a PA, I think I lost $8,000. I made no money my first year. So
Wow.
it was just, hey, I'm building something from scratch, and this is harder. This is different. So I ate some humble pie, paid my dues for years, and didn't make a lot of money as a PA. And then once the relationship started feeding me business across the country for hailstorms and hurricanes, and then we kind of went on autopilot, and then life was good.
Wow. So, and you're running your own book of business. What people don't really understand about PAs, public insurance adjusters, IAs, um, e- even more so than roofing contractors, is you are running your own book of business. You're going out, you're finding the people to sign up, you're signing them up, you're managing the claims, you're managing the money, you're pretty much doing everything. So that's very, some people will call it entrepreneur, whatever you want to say. But again, you're running a business inside of a business. So you're learning more and you're growing. And again, you're eating the humble pie, you're learning in this business, but what were you finding to help you become more successful? Was there anything about your past that made you more successful as a public adjuster?
Ooh, I love this question. The answer is yes. So I got
Yes.
hired. I got hired by a guy named Mike. Mike was probably one of the
Yep.
most intelligent, Mike Lindhurst, one of the most intelligent PAs in the country. But I don't know this. I know I'm getting my Xactimate training from Andrew Barons. To this day, I find somebody to challenge him. He's a savant. He knows Xactimate better than anybody else. And this was my upbringing. Some of the most highly intelligent PA professionals out there. And Mike told me one day, Jason, if you email them back, call them back in the same day, you'll never worry about business. And I thought
Yeah.
he was kind of joking, but that response mechanism and communicating with a client is just part of my hospitality background. So you're saying all I got to do is go find business, do what I say I'm going to do, add value, be a resource, call them back and email them back. Yeah, you never have to worry about money. So he
Wow.
wasn't
That easy.
wrong. I was not wrong. So a lot of times when I do training classes for contractors, I make it a big foundation point to say, are you really following up consistently? Are you really trying to sincerely communicate with everybody? If I get yelled at, I'm an over communicator. I don't want there to be any miscommunication or the perception's wrong because I might have said it the wrong way one day and I'll follow up, make sure you're happy. And if I could give that advice, man, uh, over communications essential for service for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, something about that people don't understand that in this day and age. If you are wanting to go into any new industry, if you're wanting to get into an industry, if you're just starting out in business, the best advice that I could give anybody is go find not the company that pays you the most, not the biggest company, not the best company. Join in with a company that has the best training because that's what happened with you. Now, it may not have been purposeful, it may have been just a godsend, but you ended up with this
Mhm.
company with all these elite leaders that were training you, and so you're getting the best training. Again, training is everything. Go work for the
100%.
company that best training, and you will be better for it as you grow throughout your journey in that business, in that industry. Now, you were blessed enough to have that. You didn't have to take that advice. You just kind of fell into that, right? So, what was after that? I mean, again, you're repeating this pattern of you're jumping into this new thing and you're hitting a ceiling. Is that what happened with public adjusting, this firm or other firms?
Yeah,
What's
so
next?
that firm, there was ownership transition. Mike got bought out, and so he left the company, and the other partner basically took over, designed the model of their business. Same fundamentals, but their commission structure, their pay structures, their organization changed a lot. Not saying it was wrong, and it happened to be at a really tough time with a lot of claims on the dockets and the court systems with FIGA
Mm,
because of Irma years later. I think they had I think we had $305 million in just claims and litigation. And there was another like 165 with FIGA $1 million. So it
wow.
wasn't nothing to go. That's cool. It sounds fancy, but we have no money coming in. So they kept
Yeah.
changing the structure to make sure there was cash flow to pay the bills, to say it nicely. And it's not wrong, but it wasn't fair that I was uber loyal in the trenches, scraping by to pay the bills for years at this point now. So it was very challenging emotionally watching everybody financially grow. And here I am. I'm super loyal and I'll get in the trenches with you, but
Mm,
when am I allowed to be happy and successful again? So
yeah.
I
What's
basically got,
best for your business is not always best for your top people.
yeah.
It's just bottom
And
line.
this is where I've made some mistakes in life where I'm loyal to a fault. And
Yeah.
it's hard for me not to be. Like if you're in the trenches with me, we'll live and die together. So it's just how I was raised. So I got an opportunity to go work for another PA firm. So it was a great salary, great sign-on bonus, good organization that we started. I don't know, with 30 something employees, and we scaled it to 100 employees. Went from just Florida, Georgia,
Oh,
nationally. So we scaled across the country really fast and produced sales pretty. It took some momentum. It took some time, but we got into the commercial space, which they had really had done before. So that went well. Um, it was good. There was just a lot of chiefs at that organization. Definitely a
mm.
lot of too many chiefs. That's a nice way of putting it.
There you
And
go.
everybody had
You
their own
know,
way of doing it.
It's also gotta be tough running businesses and knowing that you ran these tough businesses to run. I mean, I've helped run public adjusting firms. I've consulted with public adjusting firms. I'm sorry if you're a public adjuster out there and own a public adjusting firm if this offends you, but it is not the hardest business to run. There's much harder businesses to run. And Jason, you ran tougher businesses, so you had that experience, but you're not the guy making all the decisions. So that's got to be really tough for you
Yeah.
to just look at that and say, ah, man, it should be done this way. And again, multiple ways to skin a cat. Nothing against that specific business, but it just
Mhm.
wasn't the way you wanted to run it.
Yep.
Um, and now we're catching up to where you're at today. So,
We're getting there.
what was that next step? A lot of chiefs in the kitchen. Now you go out on your own. You go back into restaurant business. What's next?
So, in that transitional period, it was very cordial. Um, there was a hurricane coming, so I said, I'm just going to start my own PA firm by myself. I started Quimby Claims January 4th or something. And within the first week of starting my own business, I had more claims than I could handle. I hired
Yeah.
five PAs and said, "Here, I'm just going to start feeding you business because of my years of relationships of the industry." So turnkey, I have a cash flow in business. It was just out of the gate ripping. It was amazing. I think that was from Hurricane Ian, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I was so almost upset that I didn't make the leap and jump sooner, and I might have lacked confidence that I could do it on my own. But it was amazing. And again, you don't know what you don't know. And part of my blessing is I had some really good mentors and training and education. I'm literally hiring educated, trained PAs. They would come to me like, "Hey, how would you handle this?" And I would look at them and go, "How do you not know how to handle this?" And one of the problems with PAs in our industry, and I'm a passionate PA, I love our PAs, is the education systems for PAs suck because there's the application and then the what resources are do you have to help work that claim, and it's
Yeah.
different in every state. Florida has the highest standard on becoming a PA. You have to be an IA, get your 40-hour cert, then you have to take another 40-hour cert to be a PA, then you got to wait 6 months before you can sign a contract to be a PA here. So you better be
Wow.
really committed if you want to be a PA in Florida. The other states with the
Yeah.
reciprocal states, you just say, "Hey, I want to be a PA," and kind of skip half that process. So there's no training except hands-on training. And who's going to give you that training? Because they're busy with their own claims. So I felt like
Yeah.
there was this huge gap in the education on PAs, and they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand construction. They didn't understand exactimates. If you don't know what to put into exactimate, I'll give an example. Most people don't know how to utilize the International Energy Conservation Code, how to use it, how to find it, and how to leverage it. I can tell you where it is and how to leverage it, but you know how to put that into an exactimate and how to justify it. So there was a lot of these nuances with OSHA, general conditions, it was normal to me because I had that good education. As a PA, I had more resources to add value to other contractors. And so I'm doing this for about 90 days in, and I'm like, it was amazing. It was a godsend. And then I had a phone call with a friend of mine and said, "Hey, what do you think about this NCA thing?" And I got a phone
Yep.
call from you, and it took all of 10 seconds for me to go, "That's genius." At
Yeah.
one time, 10 seconds, and only because intimately, when I was at PA, I got my hand slapped for acting like a lawyer. I would say, "But
Yeah.
the statute says this, and if you're acting in bad faith, and this is Unfair Claims Practice Act, Section J, this is what they're doing." That is considered practice and law without a license. But I know it's
Yeah.
public knowledge if you did your homework. It was hard for me not to want to grab onto that data to help the insured. So my
Yep.
hands as a PA became more and more tied because I'd want to fight harder and I needed that information to leverage. And as a PA, you really can't do that without practice and law. So when the NCA opportunity popped up, it took me 10 seconds to go, "I'm all in. Let's go." Uh, it
There we
was it
go.
was a no-brainer knowing like-minded personalities where we want to grow a business. It's in the insured's best interest financially and from a time frame. Going, wow, how can we really change this industry by doing what nobody else is doing? We're not going to make a lot of money off of it, but man, it's such a fast routine having attorneys fight these claims, and we're only charging this fee. So
Yeah.
it was good. I mean, we're only basically charging 15% pre litigation only, and at this time, no one's doing that, and they mean it, and
Yep.
that's the catch. They can tell you they can get in there for 10, and then all of a sudden they go to lit every single time. So we put our money where our mouth is, and yeah, we've been here for a couple years, and yeah, it's been such a blessing, been such a fun ride. I don't know, I'm honored to be
Yeah.
part of it.
Well, for anybody that doesn't know, Jason and I work together at National Claims Advisors. So, and the biggest thing is entrepreneurs. We see business differently than most people see business. We see problems and we find solutions. And when I was brought in to the idea of National Claims Advisors, like right away it was, wow, this is a solution to a major problem. Public adjusting, I was blessed to be around multiple public adjusters as well and be exposed to the business model. And again, everything relates to business and problems and solutions to me. And public adjusting as a business to me does not make a lot of sense. It's not truly scalable, in my opinion. And we could talk hours. Jason, you and I have talked hours about this, and that was really that first conversation. And I was calling you, and it was asking advice from a friend to see if this is a business that we should be interested in, and helping and scaling, because I truly believed it solves a problem. But I know that I don't know everything, and I talked about this on a previous podcast. That, hey, what do you do when you have a good business idea or somebody tells you about a good business idea? You find smarter people than yourself and you ask them to poke holes in it, right, Jason? And
That's right.
so
It's right.
that was that call. I called you and I said, "Hey, poke some holes in it."
Yeah.
Am I wrong? This seems genius, right?
No.
It seems like it solves all the problems. And sure enough, in my mind it does, in your mind it did. But it's like now we're going off on this limb and we're building this business. And how do we do this in a way that makes sense? Where it's just a theory, it's something brand new. Who's Nobody's done it before, and technically, it wasn't successful when we had jumped in. So we had to take something that wasn't successful and make it successful. So, and that was again, it was because you're as smart as you were and are, and because you have that background. That anybody asks me the attribute how we attribute success at National Claims Advisors, it's the people we've accumulated. It's yourself, Jason.
Yep.
So,
We
man,
both live on that quote, which is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
And
and
it's not just National Claims Advisors with you. You have other businesses. You're an advisor to other businesses. You've grown now because you're smart enough. And I'll take a moment to brag on you a little bit because we are so close. I see you strategically. One thing you don't admit and people don't know about you is you're strategically the smartest guy in the room, no matter what room you're in.
I hope
But
not.
you're always
Yeah.
helping build businesses and helping people, and that may lead you to get a chunk of this and that and investing. And to me, that's where the real growth starts later in life, when you start becoming an investor or a partner or an advisor. Those are roles that I personally enjoy a whole lot, and I know that you do, Jason, because you're so damn good at it.
I think we're aligned on kind of going back to architectural building construction. I think we subconsciously just enjoy building things. And the
Yeah.
end result is, I helped build that when no one else believed in it. I helped build this when it was nothing. And there's something rewarding that I think we and true entrepreneurs who get their teeth kicked in. I built that from the ground up when it just sucked in the beginning. And we can take pride in that and no one can take it away. So part of the success is NCA is just literally having a culture of support with each other constantly. And there's no expectations of, well, you owe me. It is sincere family culture of how do we support each other, and just literally just love on each other. Our whole team that is just amazing. That it's, I think, part of the
Yeah.
success. Like, it's hard
No,
to say
we're all
that without it
blessed.
sounding cheesy. You know what I mean? Or corny. It's like, no, but how do you explain that to somebody? We have the best
No.
culture. No, really. If I'm in sick, and I told my wife this the other day, I was sick a few weeks ago. I didn't care if the world was on fire. Without skipping a beat, Eric Vickers and you just picked up my slack that day because I was really sick. So it was just
Yeah.
one of those. I didn't have to ask for help. It just gets done. Dude, you can't pay to have that anywhere else and not feel guilty about it. So having that support is just a leg most people fail. And they say they want that culture, but they don't do it when it matters. When it's inconvenient, it sucks.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
having that teamwork, it's this is why we're picky about who we hire. And this is
Yeah.
a big deal. It's saying, no, you've got to be in tune to this. Like you've got to help each other out. We're all family. We all have families, and families are important to us. So if you're not in line with that morally and ethically, you're not going to work out.
Yeah.
So
Makes a lot of sense. I'm blessed to be a part of your journey now, and I can't wait to see where it leads. I know this is not the last step at National Claims Advisors. I know you have many more, and I see you diversifying and growing as a person and as an entrepreneur, and I'm really excited about it. I would love to talk more about this and just more in general, but I know I want to be conscious of time, your time, and our watchers and viewers and listeners, their time. So I want to get into one of my favorite parts of every podcast, and it's who is the smartest entrepreneur. So again, you probably remember watching my last podcast, Commercial Roofing Radio, and being on it. You were actually on the first season when it was Nick Peretz,
oh yeah.
and there's a little segment that's similar to a game show you might have watched, but it's called "Who Wants to Be the Smartest Entrepreneur," and you're gonna get four multiple choice. So it's five questions, and they're multiple choice questions. You get two lifelines, but you only
Let's
get to
go.
use one of the two one time. So it's one lifeline, but you get your choice of which lifeline to use. You get phone a friend or 50-50. Are you ready to
Let-
play Who is the Smartest Entrepreneur?
Let's go.
All right, cue the music. Let's go. you know. So, what is the most common type of insurance claim filed for property damage? Is it fire claims, water claims, wind and hail claims, or earthquake claims?
For a while, it was always hurricane. Forever wind. So if you're gonna categorize that, it would be wind and hail. But hurricanes was the most destructive.
Most
But
destructive.
yeah, that cost the most for the insurance companies. But we'll go with
Yeah, I
what
don't think this is
wind.
money wise. This is
I
just the
know.
most common type of insurance claim filed for property damage.
Mm, let's go with wind and hail.
Wind and hail, is that your final answer?
Yeah, let's do it.
You got it. All right. Wind and hail damage. That was pretty easy having them separated. I feel
Yeah, I was
like
just like, well,
or together. They should be
yeah,
separated.
exactly. I was like, well,
Yeah.
technically, yeah,
Yeah. Now, if you ask me wind or hail, that would be a tough one. But
yeah,
putting them
it'd be
together,
wind.
yep.
Yep.
Okay. In the insurance claims process, what is the key role of a public adjuster? Is it A, approving claims on behalf of the insurance company? B, representing the policyholder to maximize the claim payout? C, selling new insurance policies? D, determining insurance fraud cases?
That would be B.
B, is that your final answer?
Yep.
You got it. All
Yeah.
right. So if you don't know, and you will know as you watch the episodes, Nick Perrette was the first guest, and he had some tough fucking questions. Like his questions were so hard. And you're getting some layups over there, brother.
I'll
So
take
you
them.
should. Hey, it's all chat GPT. I didn't pick any questions.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, all of this. I take your
Oh, this is
bio,
cool.
pop it in ChatGPT, and
Oh,
it spits out the questions and the answers. So I love it. Makes my life a lot easier. All right, y'all.
smart.
As a business owner for 23 years, what is one of the biggest factors for long term success? Is it A, cutting costs at every opportunity? B, staying in one industry without pivoting? C, building strong relationships and adopting to change? Or D, handling every task yourself instead of delegating?
C. Unquestionable. C.
Unquestionable, without a
I
doubt.
can
Building
I
strong
can argue that one.
relationships and adapting to change. Yep, you got it right. So again, more layups for Jason. I think you're gonna go for five if it keeps this up. Okay.
Yeah. Most people fight change when it's part of our DNA to do it. That's where most people
Yeah.
fail.
So Question number 4. Jason is an avid traveler. If y'all didn't know this, he loves to travel the world. We didn't get to talk about it because we're running a little long. But which country is known for having the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites? I don't
So
know
the
if that's
UNESCO
UNESCO.
is
I didn't even know what that
yeah,
is.
yeah. So UNESCO is think of like the Great Wall of China, e the pyramids
So
of
just
Giza.
famous
Yeah.
things. We probably
Uh,
have like none in America, right?
yeah, we do.
Uh
We do.
oh, we do. Okay. Well, here's the before we go into it, let me give
I
you
want to say it's
the
Italy, but
so
go
we're gonna
on.
say right off the bat. Yeah,
I
so
want to say
okay,
it's
well,
Italy.
China, A is China. I mean,
They
you
have a
went straight
couple.
to the wall.
Oh.
Italy is B. That's an option. United States is C, and France is D. So who has the most of these sites in the world? Which country? Dun-dun-dun.
Let's go with Italy. I'm already committed.
Remember, you still have your phone a friend and 50-50, and you have 2
All
questions
right,
left.
let's go
So
50-50 because I'm stuck on another
let's go
one.
50-50. Okay, I will take out United States
Mhm.
and I will take out China.
I knew
So
it.
it's either
Those are the two I'm stuck between.
so it's either B,
It didn't help.
Italy, or D, France.
It's like, uh, mm, uh, uh, oh, Versailles.
You're trying to count them up because you've been to
Yeah.
both many times.
Oh, that's tough. But let's just go Italy for the fun of it.
Italy. All right, final answer, Italy. You are correct. All right. 4 for 4. There you go. That was a little tougher one at least, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm proud of you for going with your gut. Definitely. Okay, number 5. This one might be easier because this one is another insurance restoration one. In the insurance restoration industry, what is the biggest mistake property owners make after a claim? Is it calling their insurance company before getting an inspection? Is it immediately hiring the first contractor they find? Is it ignoring minor damage because it doesn't look bad? Or
Ooh.
is it D, all of the above?
Oh, I'm gonna go with D, all the above, because they all have different values for sure.
But the question is, what is the biggest mistake? So all of the above is the biggest mistake? Is that
Okay. So what is the most important mistake?
what is the
So for
biggest mistake property owners make? So your
the biggest
your
mistake.
answer is D, all of the above. Is that your final answer?
No, no, you're pointing out the singular, the. So my initial response was C. Um, uh, I like C.
You like C,
I do.
ignoring minor damage because it doesn't look that bad. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, it's probably the biggest singular mistake.
D, all of the above.
You talked me out of it.
You can't trust Regis. Hey, come
I'm
on,
like,
you
well,
know
if it's
better.
singular, all right.
You
Yeah,
watch
but
this game show. You'd never trust the host. I probably get a bonus that you don't get paid, you know?
that's right.
Oh, man. Never trust the host, man. Yeah.
I'm like, well, he said they. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, but
yep,
they
yep.
all definitely
It
important.
is a trick question because if you do read the question back, the way it's framed, it says the, not, and the is singular, and there's 3 in all of
Yeah,
the above. So
yeah, it's all right.
blame ChatGPT
It's
and the
okay.
host.
I'll take I'll take 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5 is pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, brother. Well, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. If anybody wants to get a hold of Jason Quimby for either help with claims or just general mentorship, guidance, or if they want to go open a restaurant or a bar, yeah, how do they get a hold of Jason Quimby?
The easiest, most consistent way is my email address, which is jquimby, Quimby, at ncapllc.com. And I can kind of set up a call or schedule we enjoy doing training classes for contractors, and we enjoy having these conversations, trying to give back to the industry any way we can. So yeah, definitely reach out.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you being on, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.